now we're going to talk a little bit about creating a perspective grid for drawing a room. We've just been concentrating on perspectives that are small for objects, but we're also going to find ourselves doing large scale perspectives that include entire spaces. So we're going to start off with just a very simple grid. There are lots of different types of perspective grids that you will see out there if you look it up online. They all are good ways of going about it. This is just one version. As some of you go further through the program, you're going to learn even more intricate versions that can be very, very precise. But for your foundations projects, this will work just fine. So we're going to start off by drawing the back corner of a room. This is also a two-point perspective, and we're going to be looking at the back corner of a room. So we're going to draw that corner, which is going to represent the height of the room. So I'm going to use a scale with an inch ruler on it, and I'm going to have every half inch represent a foot. So I've got 1 foot, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll make this a room that is 9 feet tall. So there are all my little foot marks representing my ceiling height, and we're going to go back and we're going to put a little line on there. And there we go. Now we've got our true height wall mapped out. And from here we can start to construct our space. So the next step we need to do is actually figure out our horizon line. And our horizon line, when we're doing a room, represents our eye level. So this is usually between 5 and 6 feet. That's where most of us have our eyes, where we're looking out at the horizon. Keep in mind, though, where you place the horizon line can greatly affect how your room looks. If you wanted to be looking down more at the room and have an angle where you're higher, then we put the horizon line up high. If you wanted to be looking, way up at the room as if you were a little mouse, we'd move the horizon line way down. But for general purposes, we're going to put it at average eye level. So we're going to count up from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to put on our just kind of halfway point there. I think I just did 8 feet here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's go ahead and add an extra inch and make this a 9 foot, or an extra half inch and make this a 9 foot ceiling. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to draw our horizon line. And this is once again parallel to the top and the bottom of our paper. And I'm going to go all the way across the page. Okay, so that is our horizon line right there at eye level. Now from there, we're going to put our 2 vanishing points, and those, remember, are located on the horizon line, and we're going to do those as far away from each other as we can on the paper. Our vanishing point left and our vanishing point right. And from those points, then we're going to start to construct the lines that represent where the wall and the ceiling meet and the wall and the floor. So from my vanishing point right, I'm going to line up a straight edge with the vanishing point and then the top of my back corner line. And then I'm going to draw a line out. And I'm going to extend it all the way across the page at this point. And then we're going to do the same thing on the bottom of the back corner line. All the way across. We don't know exactly where it's going to end at this point. Remember, your paper too will be much larger than this, so you'll have a bigger grid in the end. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So vanishing point left through the top of the back corner line. Carry it out. Extend it out. And then the same thing on the bottom. And now you can start to see a room taking place. We have our our two walls, our floor, and our ceiling. But at this point, we don't have a lot of other information to help us out, so let's go ahead and add that in. So the next thing we're going to do is start to create divisions on our walls. And each of these divisions would represent 12 inches in size. So from the vanishing point right, I'm going to go down to the next measuring point that I made on my back corner line. And I'm going to just do the same thing I did to create the ceiling and floor junction points. So vanishing point right through each of these marks. And just shift it down. Always, every time you shift, just always be making sure you're lined up on the vanishing point on the opposite side. Because as things shift, things can get off, and then all of a sudden your perspective is not accurate. So I am creating divisions along the wall that would each be 12 inches in height. And eventually we're going to be turning these into 12-inch squares, which are going to help us to measure the placement of different items within this perspective grid. So now we're going to shift over. We got all of them on the left side now. So now we're going to shift over and do them on the right side by using the vanishing point left and all of those measured points on our back corner line. Now, you don't always have to even use a straight edge when you're doing some of these things. Sometimes it's actually kind of nice to just do it more in a rough sketch and then eventually sort of refine it. Sometimes it looks a little less formal. Don't get too bogged down in getting everything measured out just exactly. At this point, our drawings are that. They're representing something that we already are looking at, that we see. So we want to just keep it a little bit looser. All right, so now we have all of our horizontal divisions on the walls. Now we want to get vertical divisions so that we have 12-inch by 12-inch squares on our walls, which then will help us get grids on the floor and the ceiling too. So to do that, we're going to establish where we want our walls to end. And so we want to think about, if this were a large cube, how would we divide out these different spaces? So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to draw at the next side of my wall, and I'm going to make this a line that's parallel to that back corner. I'm going to just put that in like that, starting and stopping on the grid that I've got going. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, figuring out where I want the size of my walls to start and stop. And this will be determined by the actual size of the space you're trying to draw. So with that information, I'm going to then go from the very bottom of my back corner line and draw a diagonal line that matches up to the top of this line on the right-hand side. Just like this. And notice I'm doing that quite light, okay? Because that line is just there to help me establish some other lines. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So from the bottom of my back corner line to the top over here on the left, I draw a light diagonal line. Now, where this diagonal line that I just drew crisscrosses each of those lines that break up the wall by 12-inch increments, at each of those points I'm going to draw a vertical line that's parallel to that back corner. Now this is some place where if you really want to be very precise and accurate, you get out a T-square and set up your triangle or your straight edge up against that. But also just be really careful and make sure that your lines stay nice and parallel. But each of these divisions are then dividing our wall up into 12 by 12-inch squares. So notice I'm lining my triangle or straight edge up with where the diagonal line crisscrosses each of these lines. And as we move farther away, our spaces are getting wider because it's getting closer to us, so it's getting bigger. Okay, so notice how each of these squares gradually gets a little bigger as it moves closer to us, the viewer. So we've done our right wall. Now we're going to go and do our left wall. Once again, measuring from where the diagonal line, where it crisscrosses each of these horizontal lines. And just move this along, trying to stay nice and parallel. We don't want any of these wall lines, one to be crooked, and that will get our perspective off. Alright, so now we've got wonderful 12 by 12 inch boxes on both of our walls. So we can really start to measure things and figure out exactly where they're going to be. But our floor and our ceiling are still blank. So how do we go about creating the grid on the floor and the ceiling? It's very simple. Now that we've got all of these horizontal or vertical lines, we're going to use those and our vanishing points to extend the grid onto the floor. So I'm going to go from my vanishing point right through this first foot mark here on the right hand wall, and line up my straight edge, and then carry the line on the floor out to the left. And then I shift down to the next one. Just bring it across. And just gradually shift this and get each one. And notice how I'm being very precise and lining up my triangle with my vanishing point and these little vertical lines. Keep your pencil nice and sharp, because even as your pencil gets dull, sometimes that line weight can cause things to get off, and you want to try to stay fairly accurate and precise when we're doing this with a straight edge. Alright, so now we've got divisions coming off from the right hand wall. Let's do it from the left hand. So same thing from the vanishing point left, and line it up with this first foot mark in on the left side wall. Carry out the line to the right. Okay, and now we've got a grid going on our floor, and we do the exact same thing for the ceiling. Just to show you a little bit of that. The ceiling is oftentimes a surface that we like to leave off and forget, but I like to think of the ceiling as a blank canvas, and that, especially if you're looking at interiors, can be something where it can be a place where something really exciting can happen. So, don't get in the habit of leaving off the ceiling. Also, the ceiling helps really define the space. We have ceilings over our heads. It's not just a white batch of negative area. So we want to include the ceiling to help really define the space. So anyway, same sort of process. We just line up our vanishing point with the top then of each of these foot marks and extend our line out. So that creates our ceiling grid. Anyway, there we go. There is a nice perspective grid whipped out very quickly, and now we can start doing a real drawing.